Adaptation is key, right? They say it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the smartest, but those most adaptable to change, right? And what do really successful entrepreneurs do? They change and adapt. As the time changes, they're changing, they're adapting. You can't stay the same person that you were. Like when I hear people say, "Oh, you've changed." I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope I wasn't the same person 5 years ago, because if that's the case, I ain't getting very far.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today we have a very special guest, Adrian Hernandez. And Adrian's somebody that I've actually known for a really long time. We've done a couple of deals together, and we know a lot of the same people. He's a guy that has built and scaled a real estate brokerage, a real estate team. He's wholesaled and made millions of dollars wholesaling. And he's actually had a lot of changes to his business over the last couple of years with the retail world, the brokerage world, pivoting more towards the wholesaling world and the investing world, amongst many other things. He's a serial entrepreneur, and I'm just excited to jump into the podcast. Adrian, I appreciate you being here, brother.
Appreciate you having me on, dude.
Yeah.
And as I told you outside, I'm beyond inspired about what you're doing, dude.
Well, I appreciate that.
Anytime I get a young cat that comes to me, right, that wants to get in the game, I go follow Austin, dude, because that's who you have to model right there. And
I love
to see you come from, at 23 to where you are now, dude, it's
yeah.
I know you're going somewhere big, bro.
Dude,
excited to know you.
We're grinding, man. We're trying real hard. Yeah. We met I feel like we met a long time ago.
A long time ago.
But you used to come down to my office when we had at the Optima.
Yeah, at the Optima.
And I think that was the last time in person we were like hanging out and whatever. Yeah.
When I was selling, you helped me sell that flip that I lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lost a bunch of money on that deal. Yeah.
And after you told me not to buy it, don't do it, and I still did it. So
you did.
Hey, live and learn, right?
Yeah, and I'm excited to jump into that because you've lost money, you've made money, and you learned a lot, right?
For sure.
And now you're killing the game. And so let's kind of go back in time a little bit. So when I first met you, you're running a pretty big brokerage.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And how many agents did you have at that brokerage?
46.
46 agents. Okay. In California.
Southern California.
Southern California. And how long had you done that? Like, how long were you in that world?
Yeah, so I was an agent for 5 years, and then I was a broker, manager, recruiter for 3 years.
Okay.
And that was from 2015, actually 3.5 years. 2015, middle of 15 to middle of 19.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And was that, so you were when you got into real estate, was real estate agent the first thing you did?
Yeah, so I was actually an assistant at 19, started as an assistant. Sold my first house as a non-licensee. I was doing an open house, went under the broker's license, and then got my license, crushed it. By year 3, I was the number one agent in the office, right? And as you know, when agents are the number one agent in their office, their head is bigger than the office. So my head was real big, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and I were like, well, let's move to the beach. So we moved to the beach, opened that brokerage, and that's when I met you. We had that brokerage.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the time I was going through it, dude, it was the biggest learning lesson now that I look at it, right? And at that time, I was like, why am I wasting all this time doing this? I'm 3 years behind now, right? Like, what the heck? But I look at it now, and had I not gone through that, had I not opened the brokerage, had I not learned what I learned from the brokerage, I don't think we would be where we are today.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And I love hearing stories like that, where like the trial or the tribulation leads to where you were supposed to go in the first place, right?
For sure.
And I think it's so important. I think people want to avoid that. Like they want to avoid it like the plague. And it's like, well, wait a minute, like your pain, you gotta go through that to learn, right? That's where we learn.
Yep.
Maybe you have a mentor that, shaves off a couple of years and guides you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, you gotta fail.
Yep.
Right. And I think it's important to fail.
Right.
Agreed.
Like I like to think about it like the bird, right? A bird knows it kind of thinks it has wings, but it doesn't know the power of those wings until it learns how to fly. But how does the bird learn how to fly? Well, the mom pushes the bird off the ledge, and eventually it's like, it's so uncomfortable. It's like, I either die or, these wings, I got them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that uncomfortability where you start to tap into things that you never knew you had.
I love
right?
that.
And that's why I'm a firm believer on failing fast. Fail as fast as we possibly can, because the faster we can fail, the faster we're going to learn something about ourselves that we've never known.
I completely agree, 100%. I love the bird analogy. It's a good analogy. It's like either die or fly.
Or fly.
You know what I mean?
And we all have it in us. A lot of us just don't ever tap into it because we're comfortable. Mom and dad kept us safe, or a spouse keeps us safe, or whatever the case may be, right? And it's our job, I believe, as human beings to get ourselves uncomfortable.
I love that. Yeah. So you did the brokerage. You built that up. And you had 40 plus agents, almost 50 agents, and you were doing good from what I could tell, right? So What was it that, how long did you run that brokerage? You said 5 years?
So it was 3.5 years as I ran it. 3.5 years in, I realized there was something off, right? And I remember telling you this. I'm like, dude, I'm not, because I saw what you had going on at Optima, right? And it was good vibes. It was fun to be around.
Yeah.
My office wasn't that fun. It was real serious. Everybody wore a tie. We were calling expired listings, calling for sale by owners in a market that didn't, that wasn't the clientele. So, you know, they say the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I felt like I was going insane because I was trying to make this brokerage that really didn't fit in that world something that was going to be nothing it was ever going to be. It was never going to get there. So I went to Tony Robbins' Business Mastery, right? And just being around things, you know, awareness is key, right? We don't know what we don't know. So me seeing what you were doing, I went to Business Mastery. I met, how am I forgetting his name right now? He's big on YouTube for real estate.
Chris Crone.
Chris Crone.
Okay.
I met Chris Crone, and I saw what he was doing, and I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm done. Yeah. And Nick at the time, Nick had been peeping in my ear, dude, let's go into more investments, go more into investments. So I came back from Tony Robbins, shut the brokerage down, and we started the wholesale company 2 weeks later. Completely moved out of Mission Viejo. We moved to Dana Point. And it's weird how it happens, right? Because I'm a believer in God, and God happened to put this beautiful office in front of us that we would have never gotten had we shut that down. So everything in life just kind of started adding up to where I wanted to go by making those decisions.
I love that.
It was so cool, dude.
I think that's everything, right? Like when we look back, you know, even at my life, at anybody's life, I've interviewed a lot of people, talked to a lot of people, as have you. And you always hear that over and over again, right? The people that embrace the change, that are willing to be nimble and pivot and make the necessary changes, even when you're uncomfortable, are the people that look back, hindsight's 2020, and they're like, man, that was the best decision I ever made, right?
Yeah. And you said a key word, it's pivot, right? We're not really, a lot of people think, well, I have to change completely who I am, or I got to change this business. All you're doing is pivoting. It's just going from where you're at and moving a couple of degrees over. And that's what we did. We went I opened a separate brokerage to support the listings, to support certain agents we had that wanted to stay with us, and to support the wholesale company. And now it's all connected, which is cool.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. So you still do it, just not in the same capacity that you did before. What do you think, looking back, you said that you were doing things that wouldn't have ever worked in that market, and the vibe was serious and all of that. Like, how did you get to that point? Like, what looking back now, like, would you have changed anything if you were to do it all over again? Obviously, you theoretically wouldn't, because it led to where you're at today.
Right.
But like, if you had to go back and do it differently and actually scale that as a business, like, what would you have to do differently?
I would teach the agents and run the brokerage like if it was an actual business, not a high-paying job. And what I mean by that is I was the one doing everything. I was the recruiter, I was the manager, I was the coach. I was getting people to follow that same process. You're going to, yes, you hire a TC, but you go do on the listing appointment on your own. You're doing this on your own. And that's the agent role, right? I got to do everything on my own. I may have a TC, but for the most part, I answer every call, I answer every email, I go on every showing. And I think I would help agents create a business, not create another job. And I think all we were doing was just helping agents create jobs, because the model was go door knock on doors, go cold call. And you know how effective cold calling is when you're doing it on your own, right? It's different when you have a team. When you're doing it on your own, you're not getting very far. Call expired listings and bang for sale by owners. You can only go so far. You may make $500,000, but you're working 7 days a week. You're working 27 hours a day. And if you are on vacation, you're on the phone. So I would have taught them how to actually build a business. Versus,
I love that.
And how to run a business, right? Because it's completely different.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And what would be some things that would help them run a business, or how could they build a business? If you were to give advice maybe to somebody else now that might be going and trying to embark on that very thing, right? Like, what are those things? How could an agent work at a brokerage or be on a team, and instead of having this job, right, 27 hours a day, like you said, being on vacation, taking phone calls, like, what are maybe a couple of things that they could do to start to create more of a business?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, it starts with lead gen, right? I would outsource the lead gen. Find a way to get leads coming to you, and you're not the one having to go to the leads, right? So create a cold calling team. Number one, I don't know any agent. Very few agents have cold calling teams, right?
True.
I would actually invest my money back into marketing and not spend it on dumb shit, number one, right? That's probably the biggest one, because most agents, they get paid and they go buy a car or they
Money's
buy a
gone.
watch and it's gone, right? So reinvesting back into their business is the key, and reinvesting back into their business in the point where it's going to bring leads. Because we all know without sales, you're not going to earn any more money.
Sure.
Right? So then let's reverse engineer it. So then what do we need to do? Well, we need to get more sales, right? So then I would double down on having them create a sales team. And then from there, having other people go on listing appointments for them. Go show buyer's agents is the first thing you guys need, right?
Yep.
A showing agent. If you're showing property right now, you're earning the least amount of money per hour. So I would outsource the buyers, outsource the showings, and focus on the things that are driving the highest dollar per hour, right? And that's either going to be going on presentations, right? If that's the case, or managing the team, or coaching, or leading, which is going to be much different than in the deal.
Sure.
In the deal, you're only going to cap. You're going to cap.
Yep.
You're going to cap, and not only you're going to cap mentally, physically, financially, but you're also going to cap spiritually.
Yeah.
And you ain't going to be happy.
Yep.
I know plenty of agents that do hundreds of deals, and they do it on their own, and they're the most unhappiest human beings I've ever seen.
Agreed.
And then I see business owners like you who do hundreds of deals, and as happy as can be.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So
Yep.
same amount of transactions, or if not more on your end, but less stress,
Yeah.
less headache,
Yeah, the
more
key.
free.
Delegation.
Huge.
That's what I heard, is really delegating every aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's why I think people join teams, right?
Yes.
It's like, hey, don't do transaction coordination. I don't want you to do a dang thing, right? I let the TC do all of that. Like, don't, and it's like you said, it might be a showing agent. If they have working with a lot of buyers, you might need a showing agent, right? It could be somebody going and putting the lockbox and the sign and doing all of that, right? But there's all these little components that like take a lot of time that you have to delegate. So if you're not on a team that takes that and does and delegates it for you, and you're just an agent with a brokerage, then you've now got to do it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, and
Somebody's
you're the
gotta
assistant.
Do it. Yeah.
And you're the sign guy. And how much do sign guys make?
Right.
And that's how much you're making.
Yep.
Right? So it's a mindset that we have to change.
Yeah.
And we have to have trust and faith in others. Good possibility that they can do it better than I can. Like I know, like Nick's way better at finding deals than I am.
Right.
So I'll have Nick go find deals. Right.
sure.
My wife is way better, and she's getting out of it, way better at transaction coordinating than I will ever be. Right. So I will never find myself in that place. I'm gonna go find the people that are strong in those areas or help them become strong in those areas. Because I'm sure you've noticed people do things way better than we do.
Yeah.
And we just gotta have faith in them.
Yep.
We gotta have faith, being able to trust them. And then being able to step back and go, okay, they're going to do it.
Yep.
Right. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah. No, and I think a lot of that is being self-aware.
Huge.
Right. And you've got to understand, like, hey, what am I good at and what am I not good at?
Yeah.
Right. And everybody's got to do that. Every agent, team leader, brokerage, and it doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
You've got to look and say, hey, what am I good at? What am I not good at? Right. What can I, what should I delegate? Right. Straight up.
So big.
And so I love that.
I think the superpower of life is know thyself. If we can know who we are, then we can have other people help us do everything else.
Yeah.
But if you never know who you are, good luck.
Or you're so egotistical and
Right.
confident to where you think that you are good at everything.
Right.
Where you can't even see that you're not.
Exactly.
'Cause I think a lot of people fall into that trap.
Oh, for sure.
Where like, and I've been there
Me
in
too.
the past where it's like, I can do it all. And sure, I can do it all.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm good at it.
Right.
Right. Doesn't mean it's my best use of my time.
Correct.
I can do transaction coordination, but I suck.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can do whatever, but I'm not any good. Right. So what am I good at? Right. And not just assuming I'm good at everything because I can do it.
Right.
Right.
That's
Being
so
able to
good.
do it and being
So
good at it is a different thing.
It's a completely different thing. And you hit the nail on your head. It's the ego.
Yep.
A lot of it is like, oh, God, I got to do it all myself. Dude, let me help you with something. You're not that big of a deal.
Yep.
Right.
1,000,000%. I couldn't agree more, man. I love it. So now you've kind of transitioned. Your main thing, or at least one of your main things, is wholesaling. Do you flip right now,
Yeah,
or mainly
we're still
wholesale?
flipping.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you prefer, like wholesale, flip, or does it really just depend on the deal? Like, what's your strategy on that?
So it all depends on the deal, especially right now. If there's not 200K of spread, depending on the price point, we're not flipping the deal. We'll just wholesale it, make a quick 50, 30, and call it a day.
Gotcha.
If it has more than 200, I'm looking at the deal to flip it. And then we're also doing a lot of things out of state. So, doing flipping out of state, doing partnerships out of state, right? And then working with hedge funds, which has been huge.
Awesome.
I threw a lot out there.
No, yeah, for sure. And I'll peel back one onion at a time, or one layer at a time. Flipping, 200K spread profit?
No, 200K spread from what we're buying it for to what we can sell it for.
Okay. And then, but like, let's say, I mean, how much profit would you want to make to flip a deal? Like actual in your pocket?
If I'm not making 50,000 in my pocket, we're not doing the deal.
Gotcha.
And most of the flips I do with the partner, where they take a portion of the profit and they manage the deal, they handle it, right? We talked about delegation, they handle it. I rarely go to a property. As far as I'm concerned, I really don't want to know what's going on.
You're in a perfect world, would you just prefer to source the deal, right? Like you bring the deal to the table and then you bring in a partner to kind of handle it from there?
That's pretty much what we've been doing.
Yeah, I like that a
And
lot.
the reason why is because I learned a lot from Arizona, right? I learned a lot from different flips that I was doing that I was heavily involved in, and they ended up just blowing up in my face.
Yeah.
Like I think I lost 275 total out here, right?
Which is nuts.
Which is nuts, dude. In a market that I shouldn't have lost money in,
Right.
But again, I wanted to do it all on my own. I didn't want to delegate. I didn't want to build that infrastructure, so I had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And now you're better off as a result of all that, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
You learned, and you have precision now when it comes to doing what it is that you do.
For sure.
Right?
My awareness is much more, right? Now I'm not partnering with everybody, right? It's real strategic.
Sure. If you haven't already, go to austinzaback.com and go ahead and scroll down and put all of your contact information. And that's how we're going to stay in touch with you. We're going to send you new insider information to our exclusive community, all of the new offers, the new courses, masterminds, and any valuable information that we believe that you need to know. This is how we're going to let you know about it. Again, go to austinzaback.com, fill out all of your contact information, and I can't wait to send you all kinds of valuable information on a weekly and monthly basis. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show. What markets are you mainly wholesaling in right now?
So wholesaling is Southern California, so Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Riverside County, and then Oklahoma's been on fire.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, North Carolina, South Carolina, where else? We're in Georgia. Where else did we go to? We're nationwide right now, but those have been the 4 major ones recently.
Now, you're nationwide. You're still living in California, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you're nationwide. What types of marketing are you doing to get the deals nationwide?
Yeah. We have 3 top marketing sources. For nationwide, it's PPC and cold calling.
Okay.
So we have 14 cold callers, and then we run a PPC nationwide.
Love it.
And then the third one is Instagram.
Sure.
So we get tons of wholesalers that help us, that need help selling their deals, and they come to us to help them.
I love that. And you're just putting out content like, hey, send me your deals. Like, how do you get in front of those other wholesalers so they know who you are?
Yeah. So posting, hey, you guys have a deal you can't sell, reach out to us. We do certain real estate masterminds. And a lot of it is we're teaching real estate agents how to go find these deals. And then they don't know how to sell them. So they're going to come to us and then we sell them.
I love that.
So we're getting them, helping them, and then we're helping them sell it.
How is pay-per-click for you right now? I know that pay-per-click is a hit or miss. Like people either love it or they hate it, I feel like. Are you converting with pay-per-click?
Oh, it's our number one right now. Yeah, it's our number one. We just doubled our budget last week and a half ago.
What tips or strategies would you have for somebody looking to do pay-per-click? Like, is there anything that you've learned along the way? I'd imagine that it wasn't always you killing it in pay-per-click.
We actually just lost like 75 grand last year from going with the wrong company. So to answer your question is we have to find the right company, right? We can't have somebody who has VAs in another country that are trying to figure out what keywords to use and how to properly position that ad. So we interviewed and I asked a lot of people, right, connecting with different gurus, as we like to call it, in the market to figure out which company is really working, what's not, doing my research. And really the advice I have is find somebody who's been doing PPC for a long time. Find somebody who's been in the Google game for a long time. And those companies are hard to find. There's like 1 out of 1,000 that actually know what they're doing.
Wow.
And I see so many companies that have no idea what they're doing, over-promising. Their numbers on Instagram, right? Perception's reality. The numbers on Instagram show that they made a client $75,000, but they don't show that it took 3 years and $350,000 to generate that one $75,000 deal. So don't fall into the IG trap. Don't fall into the YouTube trap, and really vet the company that you're working with.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. I've used a couple different companies, and there's been companies where I've lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Luckily, on the back end, I always tell my acquisition guys, there's been like 2 companies where we thought we lost a lot of money, and then we turned the campaign off, and I'm like, hey, you got to go back and pull a deal out of that. Go back through the old leads and make it like break even,
For sure.
And both times they've gone back and like 90 days after the fact, like they pulled deals out of like the PPC.
Right.
So we've never actually technically lost money, but there's been times where I'm like, I thought we lost a bunch of money, And cold calling, I love. cold calling is, I own a VA company. I went with, similar to your pay-per-click, I went with probably 15 different VA companies over the years that I hated every one of them, right? So I finally started my own VA company in the Philippines, but we hired everybody. We've got, people that do all the training, we have onboarding, we have quality control, we have our own internal dialers. I mean, we have everything, and I see it all. I have full transparency and visibility,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
And so we actually, I have 32 full-time VAs, cold callers.
Let's go.
Internally that just work for our companies, and then we have another probably 50 or 60 that I've now outsourced. I've given to people like you. And the goal is to get to 1,000 right now. So 1,000 VAs. So I love that. So how do you like the cold calling world?
Well, I came from the cold calling world. So cold calling for us has always been, it's been a beacon of our business.
Yeah.
Last year we had an 11x return on cold calling.
Wow.
And then texting was huge last year too. Texting, we had a 12.5x return. X, keyword X, not ROI, X on texting. Yeah, texting was huge.
Like 1,200%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was insane.
For sure. Did texting fall off this year?
It did. The first quarter, quarter one, nothing. Ghost. Batch leads shut down, right? You had all of the restrictions from Twilio and all these different 10 DLCs you had to go through, and it really wasn't working. And then we found launch control, and launch control is not working. So for those of you that are watching it, we're using launch control.
Launch control is a good one.
Yeah.
I think Roar is still good too.
Hands down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But there was that, and there still is. Texting's one of those things where it's like, who knows if it'll be around in, a month from now, right?
Exactly.
But what I love about cold calling is it'll always be around.
Always.
Right?
Always.
Sure, you've got the do not call, and you've got this, and you've got that. But at the end of the day, a phone call is a phone call. You're always going to be able to call people, right? Like, what is going to take the place of a phone call? I mean, I can't think of anything,
I can't think of anything either.
So I love cold calling for that reason. And, man, I think it's so the way that you structure everything, so you've got these 14 cold callers, right?
Yeah.
They're outbound cold calling. Okay, so you're giving them data, correct?
Yep.
You're skip tracing the data, giving them data. Then they call, and then that goes to your acquisition guys?
That goes to our lead manager. And then our lead manager funnels it out, make sure it's a real deal, a real lead, and then they send it to our acquisitions manager. And then the acquisitions manager either calls it himself and or funnels it out to the team.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Phenomenal. And do you have, you're in a bunch of different markets. Do you have an office where you have people working out of, or is there, is that in California?
Yeah, it's in Dana Point.
Okay. Yeah. And your acquisition guys are in the office, I'd imagine.
So,
how do you structure that, right? Does one acquisitions guy have multiple markets he's in charge of?
Yeah, so we have our main acquisitions guy who's actually our COO. Okay. His job is to eventually be the CEO, right? So that's what we're working on right now. But his job is he calls all of them. He calls all the markets. And then depending on our acquisitions managers, they're strong in certain markets, right? So we'll know, like we have a new guy, Gabriel. He's mainly California, right? So we'll plug all of our California leads onto him. We have Laura, who understands more about estate dynamics and comps, right? So we'll send it to Laura. And then in worst case scenario, he'll pick it up and handle it.
I love that. Okay. Phenomenal. Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to structure. I know that these are the questions that I had a long time ago.
For sure.
So I love talking about it because I know that viewers will listen to it and be like, oh my God, because nobody really talks about like the nitty gritty, right?
No,
and
it's all surface level.
It's all surface level. And I like the nitty gritty, man. Like the way that you have your business structured is exactly how we have ours structured, where you got the VAs, it goes to lead manager, and I think we call it like a lead analyst, whatever, same thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes to acquisitions, which I think we call like property solution specialist, right?
Yeah.
And
love it.
And and then we obviously get it acquired, right? Get it under contract, very similar. We're in most of the markets that you're in actually. And then you got dispositions, right?
Yes.
So I know right now the hot new commodity is what's the dispo thing that everybody investor lift. Yes. Are you doing investor lift? How are you dispoing your deals in all these different markets?
Yeah, so we have investor lift. We use it. It helps us in the rural areas, right? Like when we get a deal in bum somewhere,
which you get a lot of with pay-per-click.
A lot,
dude. I remember
random literally there's forest and a house in the middle of the forest.
Yeah, dude. When we did pay-per-click, I'd always look at it and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, where is this?
Who's gonna buy that? You know. Anyway, so keep going.
Yeah, that's just too funny.
I know.
So disposition, and we use investor lift, but so Nick's actually building out our disposition company right now because we know that we're going. Wayne Gretzky has a famous quote, right? It's not where the puck's at, it's where the puck is going. Mm-hmm. So we know acquisition is going to get a little easier. Yep. It's not going to be as hard as it used to. Yep. And selling the deal is going to be the kicker. Yep. Right? Can you get this deal sold? So reaching out to more mom and pops, right? Reaching out to large institutions, right? The institutional buyers, the hedge funds, really connecting with them because the hedge funds will tell you where the puck is going if we can pay attention.
Yep.
Right. So connecting with both of those. And then in California specifically, it's all mom and pop, right? It's finding the agent who wants to flip. It's finding the mom and pop company that's been flipping for years. That's what we notice in California. Out of state, we're noticing more institutional buyers. We're noticing more group buyers, right? Where there's like a mini fund of guys that are buying and really just connecting with those. So Nick just brought on a VA and her job is to blanket all the buyers nationwide. Her job is just to call everybody and build a big buyers list. There's going to be
get their criteria.
Right.
What are you looking for, John? We come across deals all the time. We can't take down ourselves. We'd love to send some deals your way. Like, talk to me. Like, what are you looking to buy? What areas? Is that kind of the conversation?
What's the buy box? And then when we have a deal, what deal does this buy box fit? And slide them right in.
Love that. And you're building all that infrastructure in like a MailChimp. I mean, are you building like a big email list for your buyers so you can like blast people? Like, how are you doing all of that?
So InvestorLift has a blast email that we use. So we do utilize their backend services for that. We have our raw data of obviously our regular Excel forms. MailChimp, we've gotten kicked off of like 15,000 times.
Same.
MailChimp. And we've noticed for some reason InvestorLift's email campaign seems to be working. That and texting. So we're blast texting, right, everybody. And even we're pulling buyers, right? There's multiple different companies. I'll give you all the buyers, they say all the buyers, right? And we're scrubbing their phone numbers and then just also doing blast blanket text messaging.
I love that. Yeah. And that really is like, if you think about what we just talked about, right? When you think of wholesaling real estate, wholesaling a house, a single family property, to keep it simple, it really is as simple as like, okay, we talked, you do pay-per-click, you do cold calling, a little bit of texting, you get the deal acquired, right? And then you dispo the deal. Like, it's that simple, right? People overcomplicate the heck out of it, and you don't need 14 VAs. You could do it with one VA. You could be the VA. It's just going to be a lot of work, right? And then you get the deal, and then you sell the deal, right? And so really the key then with wholesaling, from what I figured out, is just about getting it at the right number. I was told one time that, hey, every piece of real estate will exchange hands at some number. There's a number, even the crappiest deal in the world, at some number. Right, it might be $10,
right?
But at some number, the deal will move from one guy to another, right? So the key, and what I've found, and what has been the hardest thing for me over the years, and we've figured it out, obviously, but is underwriting a deal.
So
right, looking at a deal, what is the dang thing gonna sell for, and what do I got to get it at? Right. So what has it been your experience? Really, I know that sometimes you can get into a virtual market, right? You've never even been to the market a lot of times.
Right.
And, underwriting can be tricky. Have you figured out a methodology that you guys kind of live by to underwrite the deal, or is it just trial and error? I mean, what is it?
A lot of it is trial and error, but it's just keeping it simple, right? We're just using the main sites. We're using Zillow. We're not doing anything fancy when it comes to underwriting the deal. But what we are doing is we're just making sure. So if we go to Redfin, we go to Zillow, we go to all the major sites, right? And then we kick it back to Nick, and then Nick gives us his input. So we're not just taking one input, we're taking multiple different inputs. And then here's the kicker. We're reaching out to the buyers in the area saying, hey, if I was to have this deal, what would you buy it for? Just curious. What would you buy this deal for if it was 2 bedrooms, 3 bath, needed some work in this city? What would you need it at? What do you think you can sell it for? So we're picking agents' brains, and we're also picking the buyers' brains to understand where that market is at if we can't figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a phenomenal way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I think people overcomplicate that, and that's why I like to talk about it, because, these are the main things that you could go to 100 conferences, and it's like, wholesaling's simple, man.
So simple.
Like, I stopped going to these events because I'm just like, I can't even do it anymore. Like, I don't even want to be on stage. Like, I'm just like, dude, like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Like, wholesaling is too simple, right? And I think that people overcomplicate the hell out of it.
Oh, God.
And once you figure out how to do it with 14 VAs, then you can get 28 VAs. And you can get 50 VAs. And it's just duplication, man.
Absolutely.
It's just duplication. Now, does wholesaling have the opportunity to infinitely scale? I don't think so. I think there is a cap at some point.
There's a cap, for sure.
You look at any of the big companies, right? And at some point, it's like, well, I don't even want it to be that big, right? It's more of a cash cow.
Right.
So what is your vision with wholesaling, flipping? Now you've figured it out. You've got your VAs. You're doing your jam, right?
Right.
Are you saving up money to go buy a bunch of multifamily? Like, what next?
Yep. That's spot on.
Okay.
So we're taking all of the income from wholesaling. And wholesaling, as you mentioned, right, we're using it as the cash cow. Wholesale is the cash cow that's going to fund everything else, right? So long term, we want to get into units, right? We want to start buying more units, especially large apartment buildings, repositioning large apartment buildings, reselling those. And I have this dream of, and it's actually going to become a reality real soon. We're going to build subdivisions. I'm just going to go into being a builder. And we're either going to go into buildings or we're going to go into housing. And I'm still trying to figure that piece out. Yeah. But that's the long-term play. Like 5 years from now, you'll see me doing either buildings or building 200, 300 units.
Where did you kind of come up with that? Like what makes you want to do that?
Manny Cushman. Manny Cushman.
I love Manny.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
So had a chance to meet him and be a part of his mastermind and just see what he's doing. And I realized that the big money is found in commercial and in development.
I agree.
Right? That's where the big money's found.
Yep.
And then I meet, there's guys in LA that do tear downs and they'll build 6 units, 7 units. And these guys are making $500,000 a deal.
Isn't it crazy?
$1 million a deal, dude. They're crushing it. And here's the thing. It's the same amount of stress. The only thing is you're dealing with one project versus 50 projects, right? Like we do 50 flips. We're dealing with 50 different headaches. Right. And even though I try to delegate it as much as possible, I still get those headaches. I'm still getting called. I'm still having to deal with a good majority of those situations. So when I look at it, I'm like, all right, there has to be an evolution process here, right? What got us to where we're at will not take us to where we want to go. And that next piece has to be something big, right? Because like in my mind, it's think bigger, right? Think big. That's why I love when I walked into Optima, dude, just seeing that, I got to think bigger.
Yeah.
I got to think bigger.
For real, dude. Yeah, and the Hovey family built that. David Hovey Jr., I know them. And, man, it's crazy to see what they've done, right? And they've taken it, they built them all over in Chicago. They've got like 4 or 5 now in Arizona. I don't know where else they have them, but I think there's more. Yeah. And, man, I love the idea of ground-up development. And what is your opinion on, like, we're seeing a lot of the subdivision that build to rent, I guess, right? Where they're actually all rental properties, but they're single family rental properties. Have you looked into that at all?
I haven't. No. Okay. No. What are you seeing there?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of big money though go and build communities, right? Where you've got, let's just say 200 single family homes in a community, right?
Right.
So think of it like a gated community, right?
Right.
But one owner owns the entire community. So, now whether you develop it and then, reposition your debt and stabilize the asset and you own it, or the developer and the owner are 2 different people and the developer sells it to the owner, it's a REIT or a fund or whatever, right? But anyways, the idea is that you have single family homes all owned by one entity, one person, one whatever. And then, and again, think about building them, right? Now, if you think about building 100 or 200 single family homes and you're building to rent, right? Then they're all basically the same home.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're not letting nobody choose nothing. You can't pick your finishes out. You're developing them all. They're basically all the same. Maybe you do like every other so the neighborhood doesn't look too stale, right?
Yeah.
But they're built to rent, right? So you're giving the consumer, because there's a lot of people in the world's population that they want to live in a single family. Not everybody wants to live in an apartment, right? Or a multifamily. So you've got all these units that people can rent, man. But you're the owner. You own them all. They're all the same. They all got the same air conditioner. Right, so if an air conditioner breaks, you have 200 units all right there, right? So it's kind of like a multifamily, but they're build to rent single family.
Well, and you have the cash flow, you have the appreciation in between. Dude, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of big REITs and stuff do a lot of it. They're building a lot of them in Texas, Austin, San Antonio. It's something that I've been wanting to look into more.
Interesting. Yeah. Is BlackRock doing
BlackRock's doing it, yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Fundrise, if you've seen Fundrise, they're doing it, yeah. Wow. So, and again, I don't know all the details, but I do know that when you're talking about the Manny Cushman and the building and the commercial and all of this stuff, it might be a good thing to check out.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, dude, I see the money of that Manny. I mean, dude, I don't know any real estate.
No. Come on. Yeah. It's like Manny and like Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But they do it totally differently. Here you got Grant buying Class A multifamily that's already built, right? And, doing some form of, I guess like his strategy really is just to raise rent somehow, right? Trim the palm trees, do something, raise the rent,
some sort of value add,
some sort of value add. And then basically buy and hold, I think, is Grant's main strategy. It looks like he'll sell every couple of years or 5 years if he can make money, right?
For repositioning.
You listen to Manny Cushman's story, it's all like actual commercial.
Right.
Industrial, commercial.
Yep.
Which one do you like better?
I like the industrial side.
Yeah.
I like the industrial side because I also know that in the future, we're going to start seeing office building going away. Office buildings are going to turn into industrial buildings.
Yep.
The lots, like he has one office building location that they're rezoning. They're tearing everything down. They're rezoning to industrial, and they're selling the land and making a profit. Like dude, I can't even count how much money they're making on the thing by tearing it down and rezoning it.
Wow.
To industrial. And and Amazon's coming in and buying the whole thing, and they don't care how much they're buying it for because it's a long-term play for them.
Right. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Think of the creativity. Like, you know, I've heard Manny talk about that before. Like, just even the rezoning.
Right.
You know, looking at a deal that's zoned wrong. It's like, dude, it shouldn't be zoned like that. It should be zoned like this.
Exactly.
But you're the only dude that can see that.
Right.
And you make $1 million.
Like Long Beach, right? Long Beach, all the ports. There's office buildings in the ports of, like right by the ports of Long Beach. Dude, all those are going to be rezoned, torn down, and they're going to be building more industrial.
Wow.
Because they don't want to drive all the way to Southern California to drop off product.
Right.
Why not drop it off there, hop it on some speed van that travels to Southern California in 5 minutes, and they call it a day.
Wow. I love that. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Creativity.
So that's the goal. So how do you plan on, you know, what does that look and feel like? Are you going to go raise capital? Are you going to partner with big dudes? Like, what do you foresee the evolution looking like?
So in my mind, it's relationships. So I'm really, really focused on creating good relationships right now, finding those mini funds that I can get into that I know are going to grow into large funds. And that's not easy to find, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to events, going to big events, right? Hanging out with Manny, hanging out with other people that are in that world so I can meet these certain people. And really, in my mind, this is going to sound a little different than from what we hear, but I every day close my eyes and just visualize it happening, right? And for some reason, I end up in the right room, I meet the right person, right? Mind you, I have to take the action behind it, but in my mind, I'm seeing it play out before it actually plays out, and then I'm putting myself in those positions. So when there's an opportunity, I'm going for it.
Man, I love that. And you've talked a lot about that, right? You know, you talked about, and I've seen you've done interviews with Ryan Pineda. You talked about doing stuff with Manny Koshman and being a part of his program, right? You talked about going to the Tony Robbins and being a part of that, and that's what ultimately caused you to come back and make the big change, right? How much do you attribute, like, paying for, you know, these events and these masterminds to where you're even at today?
Oh, dude, without them, I wouldn't be here, right? I mean, I think we met, right, just by that whole field. I believe that we have to pay to play, right? But when we pay, people are going to give us the cheat codes. You've given me so many cheat codes, dude, right? That I haven't even expressed to you, right? And thank you. But so you're going to meet somebody that's going to cut the curve in half for you. You still got to put in the work. You're still going to go through your trials. You're still going to go through your tribulations. But they're going to give you cheat codes that is going to help cut that curve in half. And all of those events have done that. Rather that be mentally, spiritually, or financially, they help me cut the curve.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I used to be a negative human being, right? I used to have negative thoughts, and if it wasn't for me paying to go to Tony, I wouldn't have learned the different pattern interrupts that I know. I wouldn't have learned the different things that I know now that help me get out of that negative state to get into the more of the positive state that radiates a different energy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's putting yourself out there. Again, it's the uncomfortability, right? We don't know what we don't know. So go find people who know what you want to know.
Yeah. What do you think, though, the difference is between the people that actually pull the trigger and go to the Tony Robbins or go to the Manny Koshman or do the thing, right? And the people that maybe know that they should, but for some reason don't? Like, at what point do you fall over the edge and, like, do it? Like, when you look at humanity, you look at people that we come in contact with every day. I know a lot of people that I feel like they know the answer. Right. But they don't swipe the credit card. They don't actually take the action.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to that?
I think there's a lot of fear. And I also think there's a lack of self-belief, right? Like I see Austin doing it, but I can't do that, man. He got good hair, man. I ain't got no good hair. How am I going to do that, man? Right. And we come up with all of these self-imposing thoughts that aren't real. And what we have to learn to do is we have to learn to get out of our way. Right. What I like to say is we have to learn to surrender and just be like, all right, you know what? I don't know what I don't know, and I'm just going to do it. Right. And taking that leap of faith, there's faith that has to go on in between us not making the decision and making the decision. What's the difference? It's you having that faith. Right. They say entrepreneurship is jumping off a cliff and learning to build the plane on the way down. And that's what you have to do. And then here's the key. If you're 100% uncomfortable with it and you know in your mind that you're not going to do it, stop beating yourself up over it. Let it go.
Yep.
Right? Let it go, because all you're doing is making your internal world worse. However,
Wow.
I believe that 90% of us, we self-hallucinate things that aren't really true.
I agree.
And I think if you can just remove that and just have some trust and just say, all right, I'm going to do it and let's just see what happens, right? If I fall, I fall.
Yep.
You're going to learn something new.
Man, I love that. Yeah, I think it's so crucial, that people understand that it's all mental, man.
All mental,
Everything in life is mental. And if
All of
people
it.
could just realize that, they could do anything they put their mind to.
For sure.
I
say this game is 90% psychology.
Yeah.
It's all what's going on up here, right? What's the difference between you and the person making $10 million? The only difference is the person making $10 million believed that it was freaking possible that they could do it.
Agreed.
That was it.
That's it. Yeah.
And you guys are probably thinking, well, I've tried that. You haven't tried it enough,
Yep.
right? Keep trying it. And like every day I wake up and I just tell myself a series of thoughts that helps me get out of here, right? Because when I'm in here, nothing good is happening. Right. So I'm saying thoughts to myself like, I am alive. I am excited. I am full of energy. Even though it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I don't want to be up right now, I'm going to tell myself I'm alive, excited, and full of energy, because that's going to trigger an emotion. That emotion is going to trigger an action. That action is going to re-trigger another thought. That thought's going to re-trigger a different emotion. And then now we're in the right pattern.
Boom.
Versus, why am I waking up today? Fuck, I got to go do that.
Yeah.
Then you drop your coffee. Then you're late to an appointment. Then you wonder why the deal falls out.
Right. Yep, it's because you caused it. You started your morning like that. You started your day like that. And, man, I believe it 100%.
Yeah.
I believe that our actions have consequences, good or bad. I believe that our energy is everything. I believe that, what we think about, the thoughts, the emotions that we have, like, we can control 99% of it, right?
Absolutely.
And when we think things are out of our control, a lot of times they're in our control. And if they are out of our control, we can control how we react and we respond.
Spot on.
And, man, I think you're just right on the money.
Yeah.
I love that. So shifting gears a little bit, you said a little while ago you were talking about wholesaling and how acquisitions might get easier now, right? What are your thoughts on that? Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit, and then elaborate on your opinion of the market, right? Nobody's got a crystal ball, I get it. But what's your opinion of the market? Seems like you're pretty confident that you're going to achieve success in the upcoming market. What does all of that look like, and why do you think it'll be easier to acquire a deal?
I think it's going to be easier to acquire a deal because, number one, competition is going to buy into the bad news. Competition is going to buy into the bad news. They're going to buy into the headlines, and they're going to run for the hills because the market somehow dropped 10%. And in their mind, it's like, because they're so used to a market that was doing this, right? You remember 16, 17, we actually had to work to get a deal sold.
Yeah.
A year ago and 2 years ago, we didn't have to work to sell a deal. You put it on the market and it's sold.
Sold.
There was nothing that you did that got $100,000 over, right? Nothing you did. So I think moving forward, number one, there's going to be less competition, and number two, there's going to be a lot of fear. And what does fear do? Fear causes people to make decisions that they shouldn't be making, and I think people are going to give their house away because of just this fear of the unknown.
Wow.
Right? And that's my opinion.
I agree with you completely, actually.
And I believe that we, as entrepreneurs, are going to have a really, really, really awesome time in these next couple of years because we're going to acquire all of those properties that everybody else is running away from.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think there's going to be big opportunities for those that have the mindset to believe that there's going to be opportunity. But the moment that you think, the market's down, my income's going to go down, game's over for you.
100%. Mindset. Goes right back to the mindset.
Yep.
Do you think that, like, when you talked about, selling a deal in the market we're coming into, is that just because buyers are going to be a little bit more conservative than they've been the last couple of years? Like, they're because, dude, I mean, the last 2 years, I could sell a deal 110 cents on the dollar every day, all day long.
All day.
Like, we literally got told, we had all the relationships with all the big hedge funds. We're like, hey, where should we submit? They're like 10% above ARV.
Right.
Is where you ask, right? And then they come back at like 105% of ARV and they buy it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on. Like, that's not going to keep happening, right?
No.
So if buyers are going to buy a little bit less, then to your point, you've got to acquire the deal a little bit less.
Yep.
But the catcher, like you said, is that the seller will sell less because they're freaking out, right?
Exactly.
So then, like, when you look at interest rates and you look at the state of the economy, I mean, like, what do people have to do to make sure that they're positioned on the right side of the coin, other than just like mindset and believing that they're going to make it happen?
I think you got to get in front of as many people as possible. So I believe that if it was 1,000, if it was 1,000 contacts to get a deal, which is very high, let's call it 100. It was 100 contacts to get a deal. I think that 100 is going to go to 200, and I think that we need to get in front of people more. Number two, we need to change our marketing because what worked 30 days ago will not work 30 days from today. And we need to change our approach. The approach that we used to come with has to change. It can't be, oh, I'll give you an all cash offer, you won't pay any commissions. You have to have a different approach. Your sales skills has to go through the roof. Your team sales skills has to get way better, right? So like we're going back to role play. We role play every single morning. We're going back to training. We're going back to those little tiny things that make a big difference in a shifting market. Because what's going to help you win versus someone else? It's going to be your skill set or your team's skill set and how you market differently than everybody else. And that's for agents and for investors and for wholesalers and flippers.
Yeah.
Your product cannot be the same anymore. Right? The product on a flip cannot be cookie cutter anymore. It's not going to sell. It's going to sit on the market. We're going to have to do a little bit more. Right? But as long as we can get the deal a little bit softer, we can get the deal a little bit lower, then it's all going to make sense.
Agreed.
But that comes down to skill set.
I agree 100%. Yeah. And do you think that people are going to like, my thought is that more people are going to rent, you know, as interest rates go up, people can't afford, people get priced out of the market, especially the lower end.
For sure.
You know, the $300,000 to $500,000 homes. Like if those people were already maxing out their budget at a 3% interest rate, and now that the house went up $100,000 and is a 5 or 6% interest rate, well, they can't afford it, right?
Right.
Deal Machine is one of the ways that we're able to drive around any neighborhood throughout the entire country and in real time figure out the contact information of the owner's property. It's how we organize everything and how we send our entire team out to drive for dollars. This is a phenomenal way if you're looking to get your first wholesale deal on a budget or if you're doing multiple wholesale deals a month. I really do believe in Deal Machine, and we've gotten over 100 deals driving for dollars. If you want to go ahead and sign up for a 7-day free trial, just go ahead and go to www.topd4d.com and make sure to use the promo code Zaback. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show.
But we have to understand what these large institutions are doing. Why were they paying 120% over ARV? Because they're, in their mind, right? We have to understand what they're doing. They're buying blocks. They're buying blocks. Right? You see this.
Yeah.
Out of state, they're buying subdivisions because they want to control the real estate. So if entrepreneurs, if we don't have real estate ourselves, we're eventually going to be at the mercy to these large institutions. And you homeowners, we have to understand this because renting is only going to benefit the large institutions and or the guys like us. So we have no choice but to go out there and build a portfolio because as they are doing it, and if we're not, we have to understand it's just a matter of time. And they've been doing this for quite some time.
Sure.
They own millions of properties. It's only going to get better for them. They're only going to keep buying more, and 100%. We're not building fast enough to keep up with what they're buying. So what do we think is going to happen? Right. So I think it's vitally important. Now everybody has their own belief. Like Grant, right? He's like, don't buy, rent where you want to live, right? And my wife and I have had that mentality for a while, and now we're like, fuck, we really need to buy a bunch of property.
Yeah, for real. Dude, I've been back and forth on that a million times. This is why I lived at the Optima at the time, right? Because I'm like, man, I don't want to buy. Now I own where I live. But I'm probably going to rent it out and then go rent again, right? Because I'm like, why? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm building an addition right now, so I'm doing a bunch of value add. And then I'm like, all right, like I gotta move again. I gotta keep going, right? You gotta be nimble, I think, in real estate. And you talked about that a little while ago, right? Being nimble and being able to move and you know, the market is going to have ebbs and flows. It's going to change. It's going to fluctuate. You've got to be able to like adapt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that's what you did. You've done it many times.
Yeah, adaptation is key, right? They say it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the smartest, but those most adaptable to change. Right? And what do really successful entrepreneurs do? They change and adapt. As the time changes, they're changing, they're adapting. You can't stay the same person that you were. Like when I hear people say, "Oh, you've changed," I hope so. I hope so. I hope I wasn't the same person 5 years ago, because if that's the case, I ain't getting very far.
Agreed. What's the biggest like mindset advice that you've acquired over the last decade, even like something that really has changed the way you've looked at everything? It could be spiritually, personally, relationally, business. Like, what's one piece of advice you give anybody younger than you that is just like one thing they could run with?
Affirmations. In my opinion, affirmations, right? Being able to sit down or stand up or yell at the top of your lungs, right? Because I do that. Affirmations, words that are different than what you're telling yourself now. Right. So let's just say that you don't have any money and you live at home with mom and dad and you want to eventually become a millionaire. Right. I'm going to say to myself, I am a millionaire, even though I'm in my parents' room. Every morning I'm going to wake up. I am a millionaire. I own hundreds of properties. I am a real estate guru. I am a serial entrepreneur. Even though you may not be there yet, you're going to tell yourself that. And what's going to happen is there's a portion of our brain called the RAS, the reticular activity sensory portion of our brain. And what this is going to do is this is going to program what we focus on. So if you guys ever wanted to buy a car, for an example, right? Let's just say you wanted to buy a white Tesla, right? And all of a sudden, you start seeing white Teslas all over the place. Why? Because your RAS is focused on finding white Teslas. You've told yourself you're committed. This is what you're doing. When we do the same thing with affirmations, we program our RAS to look for opportunity. So when I say I'm a multimillionaire, even though I'm not, my brain is going to search and find things in my mind and find things in the real world that's going to lead me to that. And let's look at the opposition. The opposition is I'm not a millionaire. This is the reason why I'm broke. And guess what the RAS does? It's going to search for all the reasons why you're broke, reestablish that. And when you're out there taking action, all you're going to find is a bunch of broke shit.
Wow. I love that. I love what you said, though. It works in the opposite direction. Because you got a lot of people that talk about the reticular activating system in the positive, like, hey, if you believe you're a millionaire, all that, right?
Right.
But you don't hear a lot of people talk about the fact that, hey, you're already using it, but you're probably doing it the wrong way.
Yes.
So you're out there every day sabotaging yourself.
Yes. It's there regardless.
Yeah.
It's as real as the water bottle. It's there. Make no mistake about it. It's activated in one way or another. How are you going to activate it? Which direction is it going to go? Is it going to better you or is it going to make you worse? Right? And so for, those of you that are younger, you have to understand you have a bunch of SHIT in your brain. And we got to flush that out, right? And the only way to flush that out is by talking to ourselves, changing the internal dialogue, right? Mel Robbins calls it changing the tape, right? Change the tape, scratch the tape, get rid of it, put a new tape in there. You're the director of your life. What's it going to look like?
I love that, man. I think 100%, dude. And a lot of times, everybody's focused on learning, but you got to unlearn.
Oh, dude.
As much as you got to learn.
So good.
Right?
So good. That's what I had to do in the brokerage. When I got out of the brokerage, I had to unlearn all my agent stuff because all my agent stuff was lowering my income. When the moment I unlearned it,
yeah, through the roof. I love that, man. If you're somebody that maybe you're out there and you want to get into personal development, you want to start doing stuff. Obviously, you got YouTube and stuff like that. But are you a big book reader? Are there books that you would recommend to people that they read no matter what? Yeah,
absolutely. Think and Grow Rich, hands down, right? I think that's pretty known. How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Hands down, all day long. The Four Agreements.
Ooh, I like
Four
that
Agreements.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic one. As a Man, Think It. It's a real small. And women, right? You just read the book. Okay, read the book. Don't.
I haven't read that one.
No, you got to.
I got to read that one.
Yeah, dude. Maybe
I read the other 3.
And then U2 Squared, right? That's a little tiny pamphlet book.
Wow.
And then outside of that, I mean, I can go on with the list of books, but if I can think of the top, Relentless.
That's a good one.
Relentless by Tim Grover. That'll really help mindset wise. And then the last one that I'm currently reading right now that is actually it's going in my top 3. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but it's The Power of One More by Ed Milet.
I've been listening to that.
Dude.
I'm on like chapter 5 right now. Chapter 5 or chapter 6, and it is a phenomenal book.
Yeah, and he breaks it down in a way that we can absorb it. Oh, it's so good.
Ed, dude, I love Ed.
Yeah.
Ed is a rock star. Have you met him in person?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
We go to the same gym together.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
He lives like 5 minutes from
He's
where I live.
Malibu?
Dana Point, Laguna Beach.
Point. Okay.
Laguna Beach, yeah,
Got
technically
it.
Laguna.
That's where his California home is?
That's where his California
Does he still?
Homes.
Yeah, right.
On the water.
Yeah.
Oceanfront.
Where did Grant get the one? Grant's in California now, or he's got one of his properties.
I think he's in Malibu.
Is he in Malibu?
I think he's in Malibu.
Okay, maybe I got them flip flopped.
Yeah.
That's a dope property too.
Yeah.
He made a video. He's like, I know this property's not going to be here in 10 years. Like literally, like the
'cause the
ocean, because
water.
it's like on the freaking
On the
beach,
water, yeah.
He's like, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, just exactly what you'd expect him to say, right?
Right. When you got that much money.
I know, for real. I love that, man. Well, dude, I know that we've been here for a little while, and I just want, to obviously get this out to the world. Where can people find you if they want to send you deals? There's a lot of markets that you're in that I'm not even in. Is Instagram the best place?
Yeah, Instagram at Adrian Hernandez. YouTube, Adrian Hernandez. I got to get better at that.
At YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, YouTube's a tough one.
I know.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show, man. I appreciate everybody for watching, for listening. Definitely reach out to Adrian. He's absolutely killing the game. he'll partner up with you on a flip. You can send him deals. He'll help you move your deals. Maybe he'll send you deals if you're good at moving them. Whatever it might be, just a phenomenal guy to partner with. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it if you would smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop in the comment section down below any questions that you have. I'd love to interact with you. And then if you're on any other platform, make sure you leave a review. Adrian, I appreciate you being here, brother.
Dude, this was fun, man. Thank you.
Ton of fun.
Appreciate
We'll see you guys in the next one.